Chapter titled Lady Florence Dixie from Celebrated Women Travelers of the 19th Century by William Henry Davenport Adams. This is recorded to celebrate the 9th anniversary of LibriVox. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Time was, and not so very long ago, when a visit to the wilds of Patagonia on the part of an English lady would have been regarded as a wonderful achievement. Nowadays it excites but little comment. The interest excited by Lady Florence Dixie's book Across Patagonia was the legitimate interest inspired by her fresh and lively description of unexplored and untrodden ground, and not the idle curiosity which a sensational achievement sometimes excites. If one lady can make a voyage round the world, why should not another ride across Patagonia? To our grandmothers, a French or Italian tour was an event of novelty and importance. But nous avons changé tout cela. It is quite understood that no terra incognita exists into which our female travellers would fear to penetrate. Lady Florence Dixie frankly tells us her reason for venturing into Patagonia, and no doubt it is the reason which has actuated many of her sisters in their world wanderings. She went to an outlandish place so many miles away, as her friends called it, precisely because it was an outlandish place and so far away. She adds, "Palled for the moment with civilization and its surroundings, I wanted to escape somewhere where I might be as far removed from them as possible." Many of my readers have doubtless felt the dissatisfaction with oneself and everybody else that comes over one at times in the midst of the pleasures of life, when one wearies of the shallow artificiality of modern existence, when what was once excitement has become so no longer, and a longing grows up within one to taste a more vigorous unction than that afforded by the monotonous round of society's so-called pleasures. In this state of mind, she looked round for some country that would satisfy her requirements, and decided upon Patagonia, because nowhere else could she find an area of 100,000 square miles for equestrian exercise, where one would be free from the presence of savage tribes and obnoxious animals, as well as from the persecution of morning calls, invitations, garden parties, telegrams, letters, and all the other resources of civilization. To these attractions was added the thought, always alluring to an active mind, that there she would be able to penetrate into vast wilds untrod as yet by the foot of man. Scenes of infinite beauty and grandeur might be lying hidden in the silent solitude of the mountains which bound the barren plains of the Pampas, into whose mysterious recesses no one as yet had ever ventured. And I was to be the first to behold them, an egotistical pleasure, it is true, but the idea had a great charm for me, as it has had for many others. Accompanied by her husband, brothers, and 3 friends, Lady Florence left Liverpool on the 11th December 1878. Early in January they reached Rio de Janeiro, of which she furnishes a pleasantly graphic sketch that gives a true idea of her descriptive powers. "Nowhere," she says, "have the rugged and the tender, the wild and the soft, been blended into such exquisite union as at Rio, and it is this quality of unrivalled contrasts that, to my mind, gives to that scenery its charm of unsurpassed loveliness. Nowhere else is there such audacity, such fierceness even of outline, coupled with such multiform splendor of color, such fairy-like delicacy of detail. As a precious jewel is encrusted by the coarse rock, the smiling bay lies encircled by frowning mountains of colossal proportions and the most capricious shapes. In the production of this work, the most opposite powers of nature have been laid under contribution. The awful work of the volcano, the immense boulders of rock which lie piled up to the clouds in irregular masses, have been clothed in a brilliant web of tropical vegetation, purple and green, sunshine and mist. Here nature revels in manifold creation. Life multiplies itself a millionfold, the soil bursts with exuberance of fertility, and the profusion of vegetable and animal life beggars description. Every tree is clothed with 1,000 luxuriant creepers, purple and scarlet blossomed. They in their turn support myriads of lichens and other verdant parasites. The plants shoot up with marvelous rapidity and glitter with flowers of the rarest hues and shapes, or bear quantities of luscious fruit, pleasant to the eye and sweet to the taste. The air resounds with the hum of insect life. Through the bright green leaves of the banana skim, the sparkling hummingbirds and gorgeous butterflies of enormous size float, glowing with every color of the rainbow, on the flower-scented breezes. But over all this beauty, over the luxuriance of vegetation, over the softness of the tropical air, over the splendor of the sunshine, over the perfume of their flowers, pestilence has cast her fatal miasmas, and, like the sword of Damocles, the yellow fever hangs threateningly over the heads of those who dwell among these lovely scenes. After touching at Montevideo, Lady Florence Dixie's party proceeded southwards to the Straits of Magellan and landed at Sandy Point, a settlement belonging to the Chileans, who call it La Colonia de Magallanes. Here they procured horses and mules and 4 guides, and having completed all the necessary arrangements, rode along the shore of the famous strait to Cape Negro. On the opposite side they could distinctly see the Tierra del Fuego, and at different points tall columns of smoke rising up into the still air denoted the presence of native encampments, just as Magellan had seen them 4 centuries ago, when he gave to the island, on that account, the name it still bears. At last they started into the interior, and began their exploration of the wide region of the Pampas. Game was plentiful, and the fowling pieces of the party brought down numerous victims. As they advanced, they came into occasional contact with the Patagonians, and her observations of their physical character are important and valuable in relation to the marvelous accounts which we find in the old voyagers. I was not so much struck by their height, she says, as by their extraordinary development of chest and muscle. As regards their stature, I do not think the average height of the men exceeded 6 feet, and as my husband stands 6 feet 2 inches, I had a favorable opportunity for forming an accurate estimate. 1 or 2 there were, certainly, who towered far above him, but these were exceptions. The women were mostly of the ordinary height, though I noticed one who must have been quite 6 feet, if not more. Lady Florence speaks of the features of the purebred Chuelche, or Patagonian aboriginal, as extremely regular, and by no means unpleasant to look at. The nose is generally aquiline, the mouth well-shaped and beautified by the whitest of teeth, the expression of the eye intelligent, while the form of the whole head indicates the possession of considerable mental capabilities. But such is not the case with the Chuelches, in whose veins is a mixture of Fuegian or Araucanian blood. Of these latter, the flat noses, oblique eyes, and badly proportioned figures excite disgust, and they are as different from a purebred Chuelche as a racer is from an ordinary cart horse. Their long, coarse hair is worn parted in the middle, and is prevented from falling over their faces by means of a handkerchief or fillet of some kind, bound round the forehead. They suffer no hair to grow on the face, and some extract even their eyebrows. Their dress is simple, consisting of a chiripa or piece of cloth round the loins, and the indispensable guanaco cape, which is hung loosely over the shoulders and held round the body by the hand, though it would obviously seem more convenient to have it secured around the waist with a belt of some kind. Their horse-hide boots are only worn for reasons of economy when hunting. The women dress like the men, except as regards the chiripa, instead of which they wear a loose kind of gown beneath the cape, which they fasten at the neck with a silver brooch or pin. The children are allowed to run about naked till they are 5 or 6 years old, and are then dressed like their elders. Partly for ornament, partly also as a means of protection against the wind, a great many Indians paint their faces, their favorite color, as far as I could see, being red, though one or two I observed had given the preference to a mixture of that color with black, a very diabolical appearance being the result of this combination. We cannot follow Lady Florence Dixie through all her Patagonian experiences, which in their infinite variety must have fully satisfied her craving for new things. She hunted pumas, ostriches, guanacos, witnessed the wild and wayward movement of the wild horses on the plains, which for ages have belonged unto them, suffered from the burden of the heat and the attacks of the gnats, explored the recesses of the Cordilleras, and came upon a broad and beautiful lake, on which, in all probability, no human eye before had ever looked, until at last she grew weary of adventure, and she and her companions turned their faces once more towards the commonplace comforts of civilization. All this and more she tells with much animation, quite unaffectedly, and in a style which, if marked by no special literary merit, is always clear and vigorous. One can do much worse than while away an hour by the fireside with Lady Florence Dixie's book in one's hand. One will close it with the conviction that the writer is a courageous, lively, and intelligent woman who can ride across country with a firm hand and hold her own in any dangerous or novel position. End of chapter titled Lady Florence Dixie from Celebrated Women Travelers of the 19th Century by William Henry Davenport Adams. Read by Anusha Iyer, Mumbai.